name in rap music that everybody brings up is Tupac. For most people, he's the first name that comes to mind, but what everybody forgets is who he's supposed to be. Machiavelli is the name he gave himself, symbolizes the rebirth of Tupac. All that he went through in his life led up to his biggest change, from getting shot in Quad Studios to his beef with Biggie. The narrative was that Tupac was a troublemaker or bad guy in the media. Machiavelli wasn't a nickname, it was a way to control the story before the world could rewrite it for him. I'm going to get into why he became Machiavelli, the thought process behind it, the person who inspired him, and why hip-hop still misunderstands what it meant. In 1995, Tupac was incarcerated in Clinton Correctional Facility in New York. In prison, he would pick up a book that would change his life. The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. He would use this as his blueprint for the last phase of his life. So who was Niccolo Machiavelli, the man behind the Prince? Niccolo Machiavelli was an Italian 16th century philosopher during Renaissance Italy. After he was imprisoned and exiled, he would write The Prince to regain political favor. Basically, it's a practical guide on how to gain and maintain power. Machiavelli would write about fear versus love. It's better to be feared than loved because fear lasts longer. Acting immorally to obtain your goals, having a military mindset, training yourself physically and mentally, preparing for war at any time. Do not let your guard down, even in peaceful times. When he talks about enemies, he says to know your enemy, to understand their motives or winning support over them. All these ideas reshaped Tupac into becoming his alias Machiavelli. This way of thinking is why Tupac chose Niccolo Machiavelli. As Tupac was in jail being mocked at by Biggie and Puffy, releasing who shot and not being able to do anything about it made him furious inside, so he waited, planning his next move. Tupac struggled with power, betrayal, and oppression led him to his ruthless approach to his music and life. After Tupac gets released from jail, he starts working on All Eyes on Me. He takes light jabs at Biggie and Puffy. He focuses more on creating a comeback than straight out dissing. The album is his best work commercially. He waits like a lion stalking their prey, waiting for the right chance to get at Bad Boy Records. By June 1996, he releases Hit 'Em Up. He goes all out on his enemies and the people who attacked him when he was inside jail. This song is a perfect example of knowing your enemy. He exposes Biggie publicly on his biggest song. Before the public feared Biggie, but now the power scale changed with people being on Tupac's side. Now people are picking sides like it's their favorite soccer teams going at it in the finals. Now Tupac would use what he learned from the Prince. He embraced a military mindset, not letting his guard down after jail. Tupac studied his enemies and himself. He went after all of them, naming them in his music, going after everyone that was not on his side, not only in songs but also interviews. For fear versus love, he used fear as a tool to gain more power over everyone. An example being Hit 'Em Up. To survive, he used fear to control the narrative. We would see this fully when he began the new era as Machiavelli. By July 1996, Tupac started working on his final album. During the process, the name was changed from the 3-Day Theory Illuminati to the 7-Day Theory. The album was supposed to drop in March 1997, but was rushed out after his death. Tupac recorded his last songs before his death on September 1996. This album was a lot darker and gritty than his last album. He would record these songs in 7 days. It's his last album with his input on it. What often gets overlooked is how fast all this happened. Tupac didn't have years to slowly evolve into Machiavelli. It happened in a matter of months. He was shot in 1994, incarcerated in 1995, and by 1996, he had already released All Eyes on Me and recorded an entire album under a new identity in just 7 days. Machiavelli was meant to be a long-term strategy, but Tupac was forced to execute it at full speed. The urgency shaped the aggression, the paranoia, and the intensity people still associate with his final era, and that strategy is written all over the Machiavelli records. Songs like Against All Odds and Bomb First, he disses Bad Boy Records, Jay-Z, Mobb Deep, Nas. He was on their neck, name-dropping them like he did with Hit 'Em Up. In Blasphemy, he tells a story of religious imagery. He questions everything from the Pope to priests to his own people in the song. He also mentions death, betrayal, and street life. The songs on this album felt like he knew his death was coming. After Tupac died, some people believed he faked his death or moved to Cuba, or that he left clues on this album about his return. Releasing the album after his death fed the myth. His name was also played a role. Machiavelli wrote about deception, an illusion to maintain power over your enemies. A lie that misspread is that Machiavelli wrote about faking his death, but that's just a misconception. All these conspiracies prove Machiavelli worked. Tupac controlled the narrative after his death. Overall, when people think of Machiavelli, they think of paranoia, violence, etc. It was a strategy he used to get more attention. Tupac's image before prison was that he was out of control and emotional. After prison, he created something to control using fear and madness. Just like Machiavelli, he learned to use this to leverage a situation with Bad Boy Records. Before, people were laughing at him. Now they listen because power speaks volumes. Tupac becoming Machiavelli was all about strategy. It was something we got a peek at before his death, but the message was clear. Enter Tupac, exit Machiavelli. The myth about Machiavelli made millions believe in his story. It reshaped him into something larger than life. It was a final form that changed his legacy in hip-hop. He erased the versions of himself to control the story before the world did. This is why Tupac became Machiavelli and why hip-hop misunderstood what it meant.